The first thing Kaelin noticed about the alien girl wasn't her golden fur, or the wagging tail that never seemed to stop. No, it was the ears. Big, pointy, twitchy ears perched on top of her head like little satellite dishes, spinning toward every sound. He hadn't expected to meet anyone like her when he signed up for the Galactic Peace Corps. He thought he'd be rescuing stranded miners, negotiating with moody space pirates, maybe even shaking hands with presidents of newly discovered worlds. Instead, here he was on planet Hara, staring at a dog-like alien girl who looked one wrong step away from biting his leg. Her name was Rin, and according to his translator device, she was technically the village's champion sniffer. Which sounded important until Kaelin realized it meant she was basically a professional nose. So, you sniff things for a living? Kaelin asked, shifting uncomfortably under her bright yellow gaze. Rin crossed her arms. Well, more like folded her claws, and gave a sharp flick of her tail. I track enemies, find lost pups, and detect poison before anyone keels over at dinner, she said, voice edged with pride. Sniffing is an honorable profession. Kaelin nodded quickly. Right. Totally honorable. Just didn't know noses got job titles. She squinted at him like he'd said something offensive in 5 different languages. He should have shut up right there. But Kaelin was tired, hungry, and irritated after 3 hours of translating hello into 17 dialects of bark-sounding words. So when she stepped closer, nostrils flaring like she was about to memorize his entire scent profile, Kaelin leaned back and muttered, "You bite, too? Or just sniff?" Big mistake. Rin grinned, wide, toothy, and very much the grin of someone who considered chewing furniture a normal hobby. Only when provoked. Before Kaelin could process what provoked meant on this planet, Rin lunged forward and sank her sharp little teeth into his forearm. Ow. What the hey? Rin hopped back, tail wagging like she'd just done him a favor. Ha. Not so tough now, are you human? Kaelin stared at the perfect crescent of teeth marks on his arm. You bit me. Of course. It's how we say, I accept your challenge. Challenge? I didn't challenge you. I asked a question. Same thing, Rin said with a shrug. You challenged my honor. Bite accepted. Kaelin blinked at her, then at the small but definitely not imaginary bleeding spot on his arm. He wasn't sure whether to be angry or impressed. This girl was half his size, looked like she'd lose a wrestling match to a stubborn houseplant, and had somehow decided biting was a reasonable response to sarcasm. But Kaelin was not about to be outbitten by an alien dog girl. Oh, so that's how it is, he said slowly. Rin tilted her head. What do you mean? Kaelin stepped forward, dropped his voice dramatically, and said, Human tradition says you bite me, I bite you back. Rin blinked. That's a tradition? Yup. Ancient. Sacred. Very rude to refuse. Her ears twitched nervously. You're lying. Kaelin grinned. Am I? Before Rin could react, Kaelin leaned down and gentle chomp. Right on her furry shoulder. Not hard. Just enough to make a point. Rin froze. Completely froze. Her golden eyes went wide as dinner plates, ears sticking straight up like she'd just been struck by lightning. You bit me, she whispered. Kaelin smirked. Yup. Human tradition. Rin's tail had stopped wagging entirely. Her whole brain looked like it was rebooting. But you can't just, humans don't. Why would you? Equal rights, Kaelin said, crossing his arms. You bite, I bite. Fair's fair. She stared at him for a long moment, eyes darting like she was replaying the whole interaction in her head. Then, slowly, her tail gave the tiniest uncertain wag. That was acceptable, she said finally, though her voice cracked halfway through. Very well. Truce. Truce, Kaelin agreed. Rin nodded firmly like everything was settled, but her ears were still bright red at the tips. Hashtag later that evening. The story of the bite war spread through the village like wildfire. By the time Kaelin sat down for dinner, 3 alien pups had already asked to see the legendary human bite, and an elderly villager muttered something about the prophecy of the equal fong. Kaelin had no idea what that meant, but Rin looked like she wanted to bury herself under the nearest table. They think we're engaged now, she mumbled, ears flat against her head. Kaelin nearly choked on his drink. Engaged? In our culture, mutual biting implies serious commitment, she said through gritted teeth. It's like exchanging rings, but with teeth. Kaelin stared at her. You didn't mention that part. You didn't ask before you bit me, she shot back. Who just goes around biting people? You bit me first. That was different. How? Because I was winning an argument. Kaelin threw his hands in the air. This is ridiculous. I'm not marrying someone because of a bite misunderstanding. Rin's tail was wagging again though, and she was very obviously trying to hide a smile. Too late. Tradition is tradition. You're mine now, human. Kaelin groaned into his hands. He was never signing up for another alien diplomacy mission again. Hashtag the next day. By morning, the engagement rumor had gone full-on galactic gossip. Kaelin couldn't walk 10 steps without someone congratulating him or offering advice about raising pups together. Meanwhile, Rin was having the time of her life. Smile for the elders, she whispered, dragging Kaelin toward a group of very toothy, very judgmental-looking villagers. You don't want to seem like a reluctant mate. I am a reluctant mate, he hissed back. Rin ignored him completely, giving the elders a wide grin. Yes, this is my human. Very strong. Excellent biting technique. Kaelin muttered under his breath. I'm going to bite you again out of spite. Rin's ears flicked. Promise. He blinked. Wait, was that flirting? She didn't answer. just wagged her tail and sauntered off like she hadn't just turned his whole diplomatic mission into a circus. Hashtag the ceremony, apparently. By the end of the week, Kalen had somehow been roped into a bite bond ceremony he didn't fully understand. It's mostly symbolic, Rin assured him while smearing something that looked suspiciously like barbecue sauce on her claws. Symbolic of what? Rabies. Commitment, she said cheerfully. Oh, and the feast afterward is amazing. Lots of meat. Kalen wasn't sure whether to run or just accept his fate as accidental alien fiancé. But when Rin grinned at him with that wagging tail enthusiasm, muttering something about teaching him the proper way to growl at intruders, Kalen decided maybe, just maybe, things could be worse. After all, she had started it, and he was definitely biting her again later.